Welcome back to the Grant Mitt Podcast, episode number 107. In this episode, I'm going to break down how to turn a difficult season or challenging period of your life into success. Now, every one of us, no matter how successful or what corner of this earth that you live in, have gone through or maybe going through an extremely difficult time. This could be with your health, this could be with your business, relationships, family, you name it. And sometimes the most successful people are quietly going through some things that you could never imagine. And I've been through quite a lot of things in my life, and I don't want to sit here and be a soap opera and tell you guys all these sad things. Instead, I want to break down how to look at this objectively and strategically and actually not only get through it and get back to normal, but come out better off than you actually were before and be happier and prevent these things from happening again. All right. So the first thing to look at is if you were wanting to create the best, most incredible final version of yourself, what would you put yourself through? Think about it. If you want to build this really successful business or become the person that retires your parents or do this incredible thing, do you think that you're going to have to be able to handle extreme stress? Of course. Now, what would you do if you were training someone to be able to handle stress? Would you keep them in a dark room, make sure they don't have any problems? Would you make sure that they don't deal with any rejection or no one says anything bad about them? Of course not, because they'd be a wimp. No different than a zoo animal. A lion could be an incredible lion, but if it was grown since it was a cub for its entire life in the zoo and fed steak, do you think it's going to be able to survive in the jungle? Nope, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be able to survive because it's not prepared. So if you wanted to make yourself so resilient and tough and have an incredibly high stress tolerance, you would put yourself through basically enough that you don't die, enough that you don't lose your mind, but it breaks you down and then it builds yourself up to a successful person. This is similar to what they do in the boot camp in the military, is they break these people's minds down to basically they feel like they're nothing and build them up into a different form. And so when you're going through extremely challenging times, whether it's a rough quarter, a rough year, whether you dealt with bankruptcy, financial problems, relationship, whatever it is, do not waste that opportunity. It is the most beautiful thing that can ever happen to you because it grooms you and changes you into the person that you need to become to be able to produce and do the things that you actually want to do in this life. Embrace it. And a good thing that I've kind of started to do is as you go through more and more things in life, you just get more wise. And you learn this by talking to older people. I used to talk to before my grandma passed away about 1.5 years ago, I would always talk to her, and she was so wise. But she had been through so much. She'd been through cancer. She'd been through her husband dying. She had, had kids. She had traveled and moved all over the world because my grandpa was in the Air Force. So they had lived in Vietnam and all over the United States. I mean, all these different things. So she had seen so many different things. And right after my grandpa died, I was like 8 months old or something like that, she had to make income. And he wasn't wealthy by any means. And so she had no choice. And so she got her real estate license. And from the time that I was born and knew her, I saw her work 7 days a week for basically my entire life till she retired. And even when she retired, she wanted to go work again. She's like, man, I wish I could go work for you, Grant. I wish I could go close some deals. And every once in a while, she'd take us to the movies or something. And I'd be sitting there and I'd look over and she'd be asleep because she's so tired. But she was so resilient. And the reason why she was is because she had been through so much that it forced her to be so tough and get through everything that she got through. And that's what made her successful in real estate. And so you have to look at and zoom out and go, why am I facing this thing that I'm facing? What is important for me to learn? I have a good friend that ended up getting a job in New York. And if you know anything about New York, I lived out in Brooklyn for 2 years. It's a lot tougher if you're a Southern gentleman or someone that's used to being around Texas, which doesn't mean they're better people or worse people. It's just different culture. But you could tell, and she talked about this, like, she needed to experience being in a tougher environment. And she entered corporate America and thrown to the wolves. People were talking bad. They were saying things because she was the youngest one. They were jealous. And earlier this year, she went from about to be put on a PIP dealing with people talking bad about her, dealing with negative things, to being one of the top reps in North America in the entire country for this massive multi-billion-dollar company. She is so tough now. If someone disrespects her, boom, she knows exactly what to say. If someone says something negative, she used to lose her mind. Now she's as calm as can be, handles it. Why? Because she got put in an extremely uncomfortable environment where you have to pay $4,000 or $5,000 a month rent, where you have to make enough money to be able to provide, where you have to compete against people who are the brightest and sharpest and smartest in the world, and failure is not an option. What happened? While that was uncomfortable, while that wasn't fun to deal with, she's so successful now, and all it took was 2 years. So think about what you want and what you're going through and what you've been going through, and go, why did I go through this, and what did I learn? That is how you have to embrace it. And so when we look at our problems in a more objective way and we analyze our weaknesses, the things that we're going through, minus health, start to make more sense. And we embrace it and accept it. And a good lesson in a kind of a saying that I tell myself, almost like a mantra, is I tell myself, I go, Grant, if I can't handle what I'm going through right now, why should I deserve to get any more? If I can't handle dealing with a small problem at my company with 3 or 4 employees, how could I handle 1,000? If I can't handle giving a speech in front of 500 people, how could I do it in front of 50,000? If I can't handle a couple people saying negative things about me, how could I handle millions and turning on the TV and people saying negative things? That's how you got to think. You got to think like so big that your problems that you're dealing with now are like nothing. So I'll give you an example. I have a rule, and I always tell this to my sales reps, is I don't want you to ever have $1,000 problem again. And I want you to set goals and targets that are so big that 95% of the problems that you deal with right now disappear. Meaning instead of you just barely trying to make $100,000, how about let's figure out a plan to 3 or 4 or 5x your income? So every problem, your car gets towed, you're laughing, you don't even care. You need to get a tire replaced, yeah, you don't even care. You don't feel like mowing your lawn, nah, it's handled. You got this problem and something happened in the engine of your car, fix. All these things disappear because you're so successful and you're producing so much more than all of these small problems that they eat them. They disappear. And that's the key. But you have to be tough. Okay, so a key, I'm going to give you a few little steps here to kind of look at this. To get past a difficult time, the first thing that you have to do, and this is the biggest risk, is you cannot get emotional and reactive. I'm not telling you to not have a human experience. If you feel sad, you feel disappointed, it's okay. Feel those emotions. And when you're done, I want you to actually look at your problems and the things that you're dealing with and objectively look at them and accept them for what they are, no matter how bad. You have to accept it. This is the number one first thing that you have to do. Just like when they talk about how to get someone off an addiction, the first step is admitting it. Sometimes we kind of dust it under the rug, and it stops us and delays the process of actually getting through it, fixing it, and growing. So accept it. Okay, the second is it's okay if you can't just go run a marathon. It's okay if you can barely walk, crawl, move forward, do something. If you're in debt, start with $1 a day, $5 a day. Just cut your expenses and just put money towards that debt. Eventually, you're going to pay it off. One thing that I did early on before I started my company is I was trying to save money and all this stuff, but I wasn't making too much yet. I made a rule that no matter what, I had to put something, even if it was $10, $100. And I formed that good habit. So as I started making more money, I was able to invest more, save more, and put more money. But the habit was already there. The same thing goes for getting through this. You want to lose weight? Yeah, the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks of time, you're not going to see much results. But I guarantee a year or two from now, you're going to look pretty damn good. And this is what's cool about life, is that if it's difficult, that's great. If it was easy, everyone could do it. So the harder it is, that means the less people are going to be in your way or are going to be competing against what you are, what you're trying to become. So you can utilize that. If it's difficult and you get past it, that means you're beating almost everyone in the world. I always say all the time, I'm like, I tell friends and different people that are entrepreneurs, that we deal with this and good things and bad things and crazy things. We always look at each other like, I don't know how anybody does it. I mean, how tough you got to be, but you have to push past that. And what's cool about it, and I thought about this, I had this conversation, I can't remember who it was, maybe it was Dan Martell or someone else recently. I said, everything that I've been through, no matter how difficult, I don't regret one of those things. At the time, it sucked, it was miserable, but I never regretted it because it prepared me for what was next. And when I would face those similar old problems, they became almost like a joke to me. It was very simple. I was like, just do this and this and this. I'll never forget it. We had, with project management on the solar side, it's construction jobs. So you deal with all types of crazy stuff. And I remember the first 3 to 6 months, we'd have an install going on and something would blow up. We'd have someone cancel. We'd have an employee quit. And I would be so flustered. I couldn't talk to anybody. It would take me an hour to get my mind right. I'd be stressed out. Now things happen that would make people question their life. And I'm like, just do this, do this, do this, do this. It's not because I'm better. It's because I've experienced so many different things for that specific industry and that specific deal as running a business that I just don't get really stressed out anymore. Now, if I face a bigger problem, I guarantee I would. And then I would have to develop and learn and get through that. And the same thing is happening to you, but you have to embrace it. Because if you embrace it and you force yourself to grow from it, you will become the person that you need to become to ultimately accomplish the things that you want to in this life and achieve the things that you know that you can achieve. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. As always, you guys can find me on all my social media channels at Grant Mitt. Hope to see you guys soon for episode 108. Thank you guys.